Hello everybody, welcome to another watercolor tutorial. We're going to be painting these really cool watercolor donuts today. The first thing that you want to do is just sketch out your donut with a pencil. So you can take a round object and just trace a circle and then draw a smaller circle in the center, in proportion to whatever width that you want or thickness that you want your donut to be. Once you have that down, you don't have to worry too much about, erasing the pencil lines because we're going to be painting over them with dark watercolor, so they won't show through. You can choose whatever color that you're going to be painting your donut. I'm going to make this one sort of a pink magenta color. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take my magenta color, and there's two ways that you can technically do this. You can use the wet and wet technique, so you can paint this entire thing with a layer of water and then just border the outside and the inside with watercolor, but I don't want to do that because that requires me to paint water inside my pencil lines, and that's not always easy to do. So I'm going to do it in the way that I'm going to show you how to do it. So I'm taking my magenta color. It's as pigmented as I can make it at this moment, at least. And I'm just painting the inner portion of the outer circle. Now, before this dries, you want to rinse your paintbrush. I just rinsed it in water. And you want to keep rinsing your paintbrush and just extend that color before it dries. So you do have to work a little bit quickly here. And then you want to pick up your pigmented color again and just outline the outside of the small circle so that you're creating your little donut hole. And the reason that we're painting the outside of the small circle and the inside of the large circle is because we want to make the donut look like it's actually 3D. So by adding shading to this portion and this portion, it looks like the light is hitting the top rounded portion of our donut. And as the donut, goes downwards because it's 3D, it gets darker on the parts that are closest to the ground, that are touching the ground. So because this isn't exactly, like, we want it to look a lot more intense in terms of the highlights, what you can now do is just keep going around with a rinsed paintbrush, picking up as much of the watercolor as you can to make the top portion, the center portion of our ring, nice and bright. The other thing that we can do is add a little bit of black, but you don't want to add this black right on the piece of paper. So I'm going to add a little bit of red actually as well to mine. A little bit of black. Because if we do that and we paint it on the darkened portions, then it'll intensify our shaded portions even more. Now rinse your paintbrush and go ahead and do the same thing that we were doing before, picking up that extra pigment to make the center portion of our ring as bright as possible. So that already looks pretty good how it is there. Now, one final thing I'm going to do to intensify this even more is I'm going to take a liner brush and I'm going to outline, again, the same portions, the outer and the inner circle, but I'm going to try and paint some of it on the white part of our piece of paper, because it's not yet wet with watercolor, so some of it will, you know, stick on there and not fade entirely. I'm gonna go even closer here to show you exactly what I'm doing. See, I'm painting like 0.5 millimeter onto the white portion of the piece of paper, so that shadow really sticks in there. Now you don't have to go all the way around the donut for this part. We can just pretend that the shadow is on one side because our light source is coming from one side. And I think I'm gonna do that because otherwise this would take forever. I think I'm happy with my little donut there. I'm gonna let that dry while we move on to the second one. My second donut is going to be like a chocolatey brown color. So we're doing the exact same thing that we did with the first donut, where we first outlined the outer ring, then we're spreading that out before it dries, then quickly outlining the inner ring. And then joining those two together. And then once again, just picking up the extra watercolor from the center of our ring. And again, I'm just gonna add a little more definition, a little bit more shading, just to make the donut look as much of a donut as we can make it look like. Blending that out. Okay, so this pink one is mostly dry now, and we're gonna spruce it up a little bit. I'm gonna add some icing that's kind of being drizzled over top of it. So I'm just taking white acrylic paint here and a liner brush, and I'm going to kind of do my best to drizzle this naturally over the donut. You want to try and keep the thickness of the icing as consistent as possible so that it looks as realistic as possible. One thing that you can do to make your icing look more realistic is round it at the edges so it looks like you're holding something and you're kind of drizzling it like this over top of the donut. So that's what I've done here and here. So naturally, these ones are going to face the other way. With this chocolate one, I'm using a slightly different technique. Instead of having it drizzled in this really nice uniform kind of circular strokes, I'm dragging my acrylic paint across to create these tiger stripes almost, I would describe them as. And what I'm going to do, because my brown one is quite light, I am going to add some brown watercolor to that. Just, see, mine is not completely dry yet, and that's a problem, so I'm gonna just quickly dry this. And that's basically our donut tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and I will see you in the next one.